a strip at the top of the screen that says the recording has started. Why don't we go ahead and do introductions? Maybe we'll start with the group of the four of you.
Sounds good. I can kick it off. My name is Kelsey Fode. I'm a transportation planner with the City of Minneapolis Public Works. I'm working on the High Lake project with this team here in the room.
Aaron Tagg with MnDOT.
Jason Stabell with Hennepin County.
Stephanie Devitt, STK Communications, supporting the engagement of it.
All right, Yasna, do you want to go next?
Good evening, Yasna Hadjic-Stanek, she, her, transportation planner with Public Works, City of Minneapolis.
Trey?
Muted.
You're muted.
Yeah, Trey Joyner, transportation planner of City of Minneapolis Public Works. The project lead for the Phillips traffic safety project, which was formerly in Mike Samuelson's hands, but transitioned over to me towards the beginning of this year.
Jeff?
Hi, everybody. I'm Jeff McMiniman. I'm an urban designer and landscape architect with Damon Farber. And we are the consultant team that Hennepin County has hired to help come up with some design concepts for the underpass at High Lake.
Adam?
Hey everyone, I'm Adam. He, him, his. I'm a Lead for Minnesota fellow working with a nonprofit Native Son community power development to serve the Little Earth community. Yeah, it's kind of a whole entire domino effect, but ultimately I work for Little Earth.
And I'm Kelly Molman. I am with the Sustainability Division in the City of Minneapolis City Coordinator's Office. And thank you all for being here this evening. So I'll hand it over to the High Lake team to kick off with your presentation.
You just want me to go?
Go for it.
All right. Thanks everyone for having us tonight. Here to talk about the High Lake Interchange project. This project just kind of exemplified by the logos on here is, really a big partnership coordination project between these four entities. So Hennepin County, MnDOT, City of Minneapolis, and then Metro Transit as well. Second. There we go. So back in 2016, the city and county kicked off a study to look at redesigning the Hiawatha and Lake interchange. It's currently what we call a single point urban interchange, which is really good at efficiently moving vehicles through an interchange, but is not very good for getting pedestrians safely through the roadways. So they started looking at, what different kind of configuration there could be that would provide a better way for pedestrians and bicyclists to get across Hiawatha. 2019, the phase 2 of that study wrapped up, which recommended proceeding with what we call a tight diamond interchange, which we'll look at what that kind of looks like when we get to our layout later in the presentation. And then later that year, MnDOT, Hennepin County, and the city agreed to partner on a reconstruction of the interchange. Since that time, the county has gotten regional solicitation funding from the Metropolitan Council for the project, which is, helps solidify our funding and budget for the project. And then kind of another key component is the Metro Transit has their B-Line ABRT that is running on Lake Street. There's an existing BRT station that was built as part of the Hennepin County Service Center a few years ago. As part of our project, we are going to construct the westbound station on the north side of Lake Street. As far as project goals, again, really trying to make this a safe place for all people to get through and across Hiawatha and along Lake Street, making it a safer place, especially for bicyclists and pedestrians to get through. Improving connectivity between the neighborhoods on either side of Hiawatha. We've heard a lot about how Hiawatha is a barrier, especially getting through this along Lake Street across Hiawatha is a barrier. I think one of the best examples that's kind of come up to show that is there's an Aldi on either side of Hiawatha at this area. So it just suggests that Aldi thinks that it's enough of a barrier that they need 2 stores. And then also supporting climate-friendly transportation and encouraging ways for people to get through the area without using a single occupancy vehicle. This is our schedule for the project. So we started design work back in late 2020. We're looking to have our layout done later this summer, with final plans done in the fall of next year in 2023. We're going to take it out and get our bids for construction in early 2024, and then plan the construction to happen during the 2024 construction season. This is what it looks like today if you were to take the bridge off of Hiawatha and kind of look underneath. As you can see, a lot of sweeping turns for vehicles that make it efficient and quick for them to get through the interchange. But if you're a pedestrian and bicyclist, kind of a zigzag of crossings to get, especially across Hiawatha, over, I guess, along Lake Street, but between the east and west side. So, this is, we're trying to square this up and not make this so convoluted, and not make as many opportunities to be in conflict with vehicles with a new design. With that, we'll go over to the layout. So we'll start kind of here in the middle. The scope of the project really goes from 22nd Street to Snelling on the east side. So that really kind of shows where the focus of the project is. As you get on either side of 22nd or Snelling, we have work beyond that, but that's really trying to tie into existing Lake Street from the work we're doing at those intersections. So as we kind of zoom into the actual interchange, you can kind of see underlying where the old ramps were and how much we're tightening up the different corners and the different intersections for both ramps here. Tightening up the corners will really slow vehicle speeds down as they turn. We're tightening up the travel lanes from 12-foot lanes to 10.5-foot lanes. We've identified a number of spots where we can provide more planting space. So a lot of the green on here is spots where we can plant trees or grasses or other vegetation. We've reduced the number of lanes coming off on the ramp. So as you're coming southbound on Hiawatha and getting off to Lake Street, today there's 3 lanes there, and we're gonna reduce that down to 2 lanes. And then as you're going northbound on Hiawatha and getting off at Lake Street, today there's 2 lanes there, and right now we're planning to make that 1 lane getting off. So again, working to reduce that crossing distance for people trying to cross those roadways. One of the big parts of this project, and especially the engagement we're doing, is the space that's under the bridge. So as we reconfigure it, there's going to be a lot more space under the bridge, and we want to, make sure that there's a good plan for how that space is going to be used, so it doesn't end up being kind of a forgotten space that isn't an asset to the communities around it. And so we can talk about that more if people are interested in it, but there's a lot of engagement around there about trying to find what that space could be, trying to find partners that could partner with the transportation agencies we have here, partnering with other entities that, really have expertise in how that could get used or programmed. As we move to the east here, I will note we have a bike facility on the north side of Lake Street that will go from Snelling to 22nd. There's a number of mature trees on both the north and south side of Lake Street that we're really going to try and keep. If you were going to start over and optimize kind of how you divide up your sidewalk space, we'd probably put the trees in a little bit different spot, but we really feel that, maintaining those mature trees is something that's really important. So working within kind of the confines of where they are today, when we're kind of working on our sidewalk space for that. As you get over to Snelling, we have bump outs to, again, reduce that crossing distance and encourage vehicles to take those corners slower. Also working on tightening up the driveways out of Target. So kind of their main entrance and exit right there at Snelling, as well as they have a truck entrance exit over by the railroad tracks that we're trying to tighten up and locate in, a better spot, and still make sure that they can get their trucks in and out for their loading facility, but make sure it's not as wide as it is today. Then as we go to the west side, on the south side, we have the service center. We're really keeping that pretty much as it is today, not looking to reconfigure that too much. On the north side, today there's a right turn lane that goes into the shopping center to the north. That turn lane is going away, and that provides extra space for pedestrians, bicyclists, and then you can see in the blue there the new ABRT station for the B line that will get installed in this area. Again, bump out at 22nd Avenue there on the south side, and then again on the north side, that driveway entrance into the shopping center is getting tightened up, so it's not as wide as it is today. Trying to balance the crossing distance with how much impacts we have with their access roads and parking lots there. So that is kind of, the highlights for the layout. I guess anything to add from anyone else or any questions?
No, you hit it. It's like you did this presentation already. You did well. So I have nothing else to add. No.
I have a question. So I know there's been talk about, or there is going to be a BRT going on Hennepin. Has there been talk about a bus lane? I see, there are 2 lanes going each way. Would one of them be a bus lane?
Through the interchange area, let me share again. I'm used to doing this on one screen.
Yeah, it's harder.
Through the interchange area, no, we've worked closely with the Metro Transit on lane configuration. So no to that, but on either side along Lake Street, there will be some dedicated bus only transit lanes. It's a long story on that. It's a separate project, but I think from Minnehaha to the river is going to be transit only lane westbound, and then from basically 22nd here all the way to the city border. There's places where there's going to be a transit lane on Lake, but through here, not a dedicated transit lane.
And that was informed by a lot of analysis by Metro Transit that Yasna worked on to identify where those transit lanes were most needed and most efficient. One thing that Metro Transit did raise for consideration with this project is a queue jump, maybe to the east, Jason, if you want to go, which could allow the bus to get a head start at that right turn lane. That's where the cursor is and in the event of a red light and turning green. So that's something that's in a later design of the project.
Great, thank you.
Did we do that justice, Yasna? You're involved in a lot. Okay, that's
And I know we don't have a terrible number of community members on the call tonight, but in case they have ideas after seeing this presentation, what are their opportunities to inform either the layout, the landscaping, like any of the next steps that are coming forward?
Yeah, I would say reach out to me and I'll connect them with the project team and we'll get those comments circulated and addressed.
Yeah, so, you know, the landscape architecture, urban design portion of this, Jeff and his team will be working on some concepts here this summer, and hopefully we're going to go out later in the summer into the fall with some of that, some of their work and concepts. And I think some goals are to try to get to some open streets events this summer. So not only you can contact Kelsey, but you can see us out and about.
Maybe one other thing I would add to that, if folks want to go to, there's a High Lake website on Hennepin County and it connects to the story map for the project. There's information up there about the work that's been done so far on engagement. We heard from about 500 folks on that front. And there's a project advisory committee that we're keeping in the loop on that. And I noticed that between list committee, so they've been involved throughout this, neighborhood associations, things like that. So there's voices in the community as well that you could go to if you have questions about what's happened so far or want to connect.
Since it's being recorded, I will just say it's hennepin.us/hi-lake is the website. And I put that in the chat, but if there's some notes being taken, that website can be shared with everyone.
Thank you. Jeff, did you want to add anything about your process going forward, or any of, like, if there's anything that you kind of already have in mind for the landscape?
Sure. So right now we are in the data gathering and collecting mode. We're just getting started on the project, doing an inventory on the site. Our group met out there 2 days ago, spent a couple of hours on the site taking photographs. I'm going back there tonight to see the site after dark and see what the lighting is like there. One of the things, when you get on the website, you'll see there's been a tremendous amount of engagement work done already, and you'll see the things that are sort of at the top of people's minds on that, and lighting is one of them. Safety is another one. And so tonight we're going to go and look at what the existing lighting is like and see that. We do have lighting designers on our team as well. They are the same lighting designers that recently worked on the I-35 and Lake Underpass. I don't know if you've seen that, but so that is sort of a precedent for us. We're also looking at precedents from around the country for underpass design right now. So we're in this inventory and analysis phase of the work. In mid-July, we'll be conducting a creative workshop for 2 days with the design team. We'll have the PAC members in at the end of that workshop to present to them some preliminary concepts that we'll be coming up with. And these concepts will be dealing with things like placemaking, lighting, how to integrate public art into the project, really trying to support a lot of the things that came out of the community engagement effort. And so we'll be, trying to address how do we keep the place safe, welcoming to everybody, those kinds of things. So that workshop will create sort of a foundation for design concepts. We'll explore 2 or 3 of those further and develop some 3-dimensional graphics for those. And we'll our goal is to try to have that material prepared for and be able to communicate that to the community at Open Streets, which is in mid-August. I think it's August 13th. So that would be the start of the process of getting this out to the community to try and get feedback from them on those preliminary design concepts. We'll be vetting those concepts with the Technical Advisory Committee and the PAC members, which are more community representatives, and getting their feedback on those concepts. And the hope is to then refine towards a preferred concept by the end of, and have that documented by the end of November. So it's a process that takes probably, you know, 4 to 6 months to get through. So right now we just kicked the project off a couple of weeks ago. So we're still in the very early stages of the planning process.
I'll add, and maybe Kelsey can expand, but there's a traditional city processes for a transportation project. You know, it's called layout approval. And I think we're looking for layout approval in August. So that's kind of setting up the number of lanes, where the bike paths are, and kind of generally where sidewalks are. Jeff's team is enhancing the realms that are, I'd say, more outside the traditional transportation areas.
Yeah,
That's
I like to describe the layout approval as the 2D. So we're doing just what we showed on the screen earlier, where the curbs were, where the bikeways were, how wide the sidewalk spaces were, and then Jeff's team, like Jason said, is going to beautify that and enhance what's behind those curbs.
Yeah, and I know the area is a lot of concrete right now, so seeing a few more strips of green is nice. Is there collaboration with the stormwater or green infrastructure folks in Public Works?
Yeah, absolutely. We've been working with them closely, and they've submitted a lot of comments that have been shown on the layout as part of their feedback. So we'll continue working with them too as it goes from this 2D into actually getting design and figuring out how those things, what's planted there and how it works, whether there's any stormwater treatment capabilities as part of those too. There'll be a lot more of that detailed design after this layout approval phase goes through.
Great, that's super helpful. Adam, do you have any questions? All right. Well, thank you very much for sharing that. We also have Yasna and Trey here to talk about additional projects that are happening in the Phillips area. A lot of stuff going on. So I don't know, Trey, do you want to go first?
Yeah, I can go first. Yeah. Cool. Thanks. Trey Joyner, transportation planner, the city of Minneapolis. I'm going to share my screen real quick and talk from a couple slides. Can you guys see my screen?
Yep.
Cool. So the Phillips Traffic Safety Project originally kicked off last year with phase 1 in the summer, with initial engagement with the neighborhoods in the in and around the Phillips neighborhood and some of the cultural communities there as well. That project was kicked off by Michael Samuelson, who's unfortunately took a job somewhere else with MnDOT. And so it was transitioned to me around the summer of last year, and kind of catching up and picking up momentum where Mike had left off with summer engagement. We're gearing up to launch phase 2 of the project this year, in which we'll kind of, I'll kind of go over the goal of the project real quick, and then we can kind of, I'll talk about where we are. So the goal of the project is still consistent. It's reduce speeding and improve traffic safety in the Phillips neighborhood. What we're doing with this, when we're coming out with phase 2, is focusing on the federal portions of the project, which are at 5 intersections, 2 of which are on 24th, 1 of which is on 25th in Chicago, and 2 of which are on 28th, and 1 at 20th in Chicago, 1 at 28th and 10th, and I'll show a map later. Also, to deliver safe routes to school improvements that connect to the Anderson School on 28th. We recently were awarded a grant to improve safe routes to school at the beginning of this year from MnDOT. So we're looking to leverage those funds to complement our federal portion of the project in the Phillips neighborhood. And then also deliver associated bikeway improvements on 28th and 26th, which will kind of get started in phase 2, the second part of phase 2. It'll make more sense later. So right now we're in the summer of delivering concepts and that are based on city policy and community comments we received last year during phase 1. this summer will kind of be broken up into two parts. We're doing phase 2A, which is focusing on the intersection at 25th and Chicago and the two intersections on 24th, and also linear improvements on 24th. Those are going to be targeted for the beginning of this summer, particularly because we need to run a little bit more technical analysis and volume counts on 28th and 26th to really get to those concepts later in the summer. So we're looking to have an open house later on this summer, and then do interim updates to the groups at the beginning of this summer. So we'll be going out to the Little Earth community, we'll be going out to Phillips neighborhood and some of the other community groups in the area this summer. Sorry, Alexa, stop. So this is a kind of a quick map kind of showing the extent of the Phillips project. So the federal portion of the project is at five intersections on throughout 24th and 28th, and then one at again 25th. But we also have linear and bikeway improvements on 24th, linear bikeway improvements on 26th, and linear bikeway improvements on 28th. Just 26th and 28th will be kind of phase 2B kind of later this summer. And the types of improvements that we're looking for with this project, most of them are called out in our federal application. They include medians, pedestrian refuges, road narrowings, bump outs, flashing beacons, and curb protected bike lanes. They're not necessarily, we don't necessarily have to do all these treatments. We're just looking for the right treatment for the right context and depending on the project area. So there's a range of treatments that we're considering that are some called out in our federal applications, some of which aren't called out, and we're just kind of making sure to really reach that goal, which we was set by this project's inception, is to improve traffic calming and reduce improve safety in the Phillips neighborhood. So I want to talk a little bit about the community comments we received last year. So last year, Mike launched a very comprehensive community engagement with the numerous communities in there, and there's a strong Somali population, a strong immigrant population, Hispanic and Native American population in the Phillips neighborhood, and I believe it's the most diverse neighborhood in the city. I may be wrong. I think maybe the college has Phillips Beat, but I believe it's the most diverse neighborhood. And so we're really trying to, in addition to do our due diligence to bring community along on some of the decisions that we're making that are very technical and kind of esoteric sometimes, also translate our materials in different languages and make them very accessible, and also meet community where they are as we're conducting our engagement. So those are some of the things that we're trying to do. But I want to talk a little bit about the comments we received last year is that we put out a questionnaire to the community. We didn't really identify where the project extents were, where the boundaries were. We just kind of get understanding from the Phillips neighborhood about where are the perceived safety issues in and around the neighborhood. So we make sure that we can accommodate those as we're moving forward. And we got a lot of comments back, a lot of them related to Cedar, a lot of them related to speeding issues on 28th and 26th, a lot of them related to inappropriate parking on 24th Street, and then some assorted comments on throughout the neighborhood that are kind of outside the project extents. But realizing that, the perception of communities' needs are much different than the limited scope of this project, it's important that through this project, we coordinate and communicate all the overlapping projects in the area. And so from the next 8 or so years, there are a number of projects addressing a lot of the locations that community highlighted during phase 1. So later on in 26 to 27, the county's put together a resuscitation or a federal grant application to do improvements on Cedar, also Park in Portland. The city is also leading some safety treatments on 28th and 26th that are linked to speeding, and with the intent to get those off the Vision Zero network. There's improvements coming from the city in locations and intersections in the Phillips neighborhood that like traffic circles, which are also related to traffic calming. So there's a wealth of projects coming down and through the neighborhood, and I think the next step that we're kind of gearing up for is communicating that information while also responding to community's comments about their desires about where improvements should happen. And so in addition to kind of narrowing the scope of the Phillips project, we're communicating all these other kind of initiatives as well. And that's kind of where we're headed. We're gearing up for a couple of engagement events. One is next Friday at the Phillips East Carnival, where we'll be talking about reporting back on last year's engagement, also talking about our honed-in scope at the federal portions of the project. And then we'll be meeting with some community groups by way of our Midtown Greenway Coalition, who is on contract for engagement and outreach. And then towards the later ends of the summer, once we get into phase 2B, we'll be coming out with a more formal open house, and we'll be also holding space at the Open Streets events. So I think the first one is Franklin coming up in July 10th, I believe. So we're kind of making sure that we meet community at these community events and also trying to come out with designs over the summer. And Izzy?
That's it. Just projects on almost every intersection and major roadway in the neighborhood.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's fantastic. It's great to see all of it on a map and have the different improvements explained.
What's a good thing is like you look over the next 8 years, and the neighbor's really going to change. I mean, depending on the scope of all these projects, like and a huge safety improvements, and like 28th is a high injury street, 26th is a high injury street, Chicago is a high injury street, like, and I'm pretty sure 24th is a high injury street. It's just it's good to see all these projects coming in, and the only kind of onus on us is to coordinate these projects and make sure that we're not stepping over each other's toes.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and as a Phillips West resident, like I am intimately familiar with some of the different safety challenges as a pedestrian and bicyclist and driver within these corridors, and have seen some of those improvements already made with some of the dedicated bike lanes on 26th and 28th. I use those regularly, and so yeah, this is great. Adam, do you have any questions? No? All right. Yasmin, I'll hand it to you then.
Great. Well, while the map is still up.
Oh, sorry.
Oh, no, it's okay.
Okay.
My project is nestled within that larger map, within that little pink box closer, adjacent to Hiawatha, right there. So thank you for that, Trey. Good segue into my project. And let me just share my screen. So my project is actually not a, it started out, it became several different things. So what we're calling it is 18th Avenue South and Little Earth Transportation Study. But initially it started out as some interim improvements to streets, then it transitioned to a study, and then it became a demonstration project, and it is now going to be a capital project. So I will start with, I know most of you have likely heard my presentation before, but I'll just kind of rewind back to 2020 to kind of give you a little bit of context of how my work evolved. So in the summer of 2020, as we all know, the East Phillips neighborhood experienced an increase in public safety concerns on the heels of civil unrest following the murder of George Floyd, as well as the ongoing challenges due to the pandemic. As you can see in the photos here, the residents took it upon themselves to create their own ways of closing down street. This is at 18th Avenue South and 26th. So this is Cedar Field Park right here in the lower left photo. And then again, kind of showing that closing off 18th at 26th. So what we were hearing from residents is that kind of the activity from 38th and Chicago and everything that followed was kind of moving north towards Little Earth, and all the issues and challenges that were there already were just being even more kind of blown up into some of these bigger issues, and people were coming outside of the neighborhood into these very local neighborhood streets to engage in criminal activity. So initially it was the traffic division of Public Works that started working with the Ward 9 Council office as well as the residents. While Public Works wanted to recognize the concerns as very valid of what the neighbors were seeing, the closing of streets ended up kind of creating some safety and operational challenges in terms of traffic circulation. So as a result of that, the dialogue started between the different parties to try and find some solutions as to how we can solve some of these issues without closing the street. I was not personally involved in those conversations, but from the staff that I have worked with, I know those conversations weren't always easy and emotions were running very high. There were a number of virtual neighborhood meetings due to the pandemic. And the overwhelming ask was to make the closure of 18th Avenue South at 26th permanent. For many reasons, this was not possible. So in the interim, our traffic division came up with some other solutions in the area that you see here. There were many changes that were done in 2020. First, 18th Avenue became a one-way all the way from 24th to 26th Street. And this is 26th, this is 18th here. Traffic also ended up installing these planters so people would not go in the wrong way. This is near Baby Space on 18th, which is a daycare that serves the local community. Some parking restrictions were enacted, as well as curb speed bumps. And then over on Ogama, which serves predominantly the Little Earth community, these kind of pinch points were installed in order to calm traffic and slow vehicles down. It was at this point that really a bigger picture conversation started ramping up in terms of having some potential discussions around permanent improvements to the streets surrounding Little Earth. So that's where I came in. So this was around early 2021, so just last year. So my role was to really build on this past work and engagement by our traffic staff, by Ward 9 Council office, and really commit to a planning process of working with Little Earth on a study for a redesign of the streets of 18th Avenue between 24th, 26th, Ogama Place, and Stately. As we all know, Little Earth is nestled within kind of this triangle here, and the remaining kind of land use here is residential East Phillips homes, neighborhood homes, and then here we have a couple of institutions, including a church and as well as 2 daycare centers. So as part of this, my role was to develop this study and a 10% design concept that would really help us put this in a request into a capital budget request in order to get funding for future improvements, and then also partner with Little Earth to create an engagement framework that's rooted in equity. I will say that because this wasn't a capital project, we didn't have the constraints of a timeline, but there was a big challenge that this was an unfunded initiative. So I was going into this without really any resources to really be able to partner with Little Earth. So just a little bit of context in terms of the area. This is the first thing that I started looking at. What are the existing conditions? What are the existing challenges? And a lot of this is not new to anyone. And really, we wanted to limit the scope to ensure that we are focusing on the residents of Little Earth and that the street changes are reflective of them. So we looked at some of the existing conditions within a quarter mile of the study location. And as we know, the 2 demographics most represented within a quarter mile of the area are American Indian and Latino. In addition to this, the population here is very young, with 38% of the people in the neighborhood youth under the age of 18. And for Little Earth residents, this percentage is actually even higher at 50%. 74% of the people here residents rent compared to 53% citywide. And then we also wanted to really look at that concern of the residents who said that people were coming in outside of their neighborhood on these very local neighborhood streets that serve up to 400 vehicles a day. So we use streetlight data, which relies on cell phone data, and we did see that about 33% of the traffic on 18th was cut-through traffic, meaning it was coming outside and they were using those streets for cut-through traffic trips. Something else that we looked at is traffic safety as a huge challenge and barrier here, recognizing that many people do not own a vehicle. 40% of the households in the neighborhood have no vehicle, as I just talked about. A lot of the population are youth under the age of 18. So this is where we relied on a lot of our Vision Zero data, where we know that 4% of people killed in traffic crashes are Native American, but Native Americans only make up 1% of the Minneapolis population. So we looked at the crash rates here, as well as who uses these streets. So we actually found that overall, people walking and biking make up almost 30% of the daily roadway users. And actually overnight, the amount of ped and bicycle activity still makes up about 20% of all roadway users. And as Trey just talked about, our study area is nestled here within a number of high injury streets as identified in our Vision Zero action plan. This is again that map that Trey showed that shows some of the ongoing Phillips traffic safety work that he's working on. And here's kind of my study area shown in green. So we have several high injury streets here, including 24, 26, 28, which are city streets, and then we have Hiawatha, which is a major state roadway, and as well as Cedar, which cuts through the community. In addition to looking at traffic safety, a very critical part of our existing conditions was looking at this area in terms of green infrastructure, and we know that the area of the study location is identified as both a sustainable landscaping priority area as well as a green infrastructure priority zone. Obviously, you're all familiar with the South Green Zone, so the project is within that area. And then also we looked at some of the tools that point to the tree canopy here, and what that told us is that there is a high need for tree canopy, with as much as 99.6% of the area lacking tree canopy and 58% of the area of impervious surface. We know that a healthy tree canopy coverage is around 40%, and this tool also showed us that the existing tree canopy is well below that in the area at 24%. The study also found that this area is missing out on an easy 22% of potential additional urban tree canopy, and the study that I'm referring to is the Twin Cities Metropolitan Area Urban Tree Canopy Assessment and the subsequent Minneapolis Urban Tree Canopy Tool. So with all of this in mind, and with really not a lot of resources or funding, fittingly enough, there was a grant that was offered by the National Association of City Transportation Officials called the Streets for Pandemic Response and Recovery Grant. This was the second year that NACTO was offering this grant in the amount of $50,000. Previous in 2020, City also applied and received the same grant for the Mobility Hub pilot. So we decided to apply again for this project and were successful in obtaining the grant, which really enabled us to partner with Little Earth. And our goal of that partnership was to test temporary demonstration elements, including street art reflective of Indigenous culture, placemaking, greening, safety improvements, as well as adding some street furniture. So what we did is we partnered, it was really the credit to Ward 9 Council Office who introduced me and made this partnership with Little Earth Residents Association. So we partnered with the Native Youth Art Collective, who are pictured here, the amazingly talented Native artists who we worked with in order to make this demonstration project happen. So the resulting outcome, which was shared in the NACTO final grant report shown here, some of the photos. So we ended up doing the demonstration project on 18th next to Cedar Field Park. That's where I said a lot of some of this negative activity was occurring and people were stopping in this area. There used to be parking there, engaging in that activity in the park and driving quickly away. So the park board ended up installing a fence along the perimeter of the park. Our traffic staff removed parking. So this area was just kind of a lot of concrete space next to a park that the community uses for powwows and other events and celebrations. And it really became a wide street. So we decided to repurpose that space, create it into, have some street art, planters, and really create it into a people place where people can sit and just enjoy being in that area. So the resulting outcome is we transformed over 2,000 square feet of street space along that area, as well as a little bit over on Ogama. We installed about 27 of these self-watering plants, as well as native plants. We had some street furniture, including chairs and tables. There was a fence art project that the artists worked on as well. We did some curb extension bump outs to make it safer to cross the street to the park. And we also, there was a mid-block crossing that was installed in one of the daycare centers, as well as part of the work that was happening in 2020. It just ended up being delayed. In addition to the demonstration project, we also partnered with Little Earth on 2 community workshops, which helped us really with the engagement for the transportation studies. So the workshops were held, one in fall of 2021 and one in winter of 2022. We were able to compensate community members for their time using the grant money by purchasing gift cards. We had s'mores, fires. It was a lot of fun and we had a great turnout. Something else that happened as part of that grant, it also enabled me to start co-working out of the Little Earth Residents Association. And I know many of my colleagues here on the call are also co-working out of that area, out of the space as well. So this is just, this is the director of Little Earth Residents Association and some of the staff there during one of the many potlucks that I was so fortunate to be a part of. So the end result, we did develop these 10% design concept for each one of the segment of the streets. This here is showing 18th Avenue South. As you can see here, these are existing conditions and this is proposed. We're proposing a one-way celebration street, which would convert a lot of this concrete space into green areas, a shared use area. This is next to Cedar Field Park here. There will be divergent that would take traffic off of 18th and really make this a community space and street where kids can play. And you can just see some pictures of kind of the rain gardens, tree trenches, planters, and landscaping that would really be a huge component, knowing that this is a priority for green infrastructure. For Ogama Place, we are also proposing a one-way, this will be a two-way celebration street. Again, transforming a lot of that concrete into green space, permeable surface, right next to the Little Earth Urban Farm. I know the community likes to have a lot of events back here, so having some long-term street art reflective of the culture. And then again, a lot of green infrastructure, and then some of those elements like overhead street lights to really bring in that atmosphere and let this be known that this is a community space. One of the big changes that we are proposing here is closing off Ogama, so this is Cedar here, and converting this into a greenway. So it would be a shared use path for people walking and biking, and really just adding more of the greenery and trees back here. And then lastly, for Stately Street, we were not able to do too much here just because of the parking utilization. Our data showed that There is, a lot of people use the street to park on, and there's already a lot going on here, a lot of property damage, crashes, and so on. So what we're really proposing is kind of this picture here showing the enhanced landscaping, adding in some of these bump outs and speed tables to really slow down traffic, adding greenery, some pedestrian lighting, rain gardens, but really keeping the street similar to what it is today. So I will share, I mentioned that this kind of evolved first from a study where we had no funding, and then we received a grant, which we were able to utilize. So I am excited to share that this is now in our CIP capital improvement program for 2023-2028, more so on the back end. So we'll be looking to also seek out additional funding to help us supplement, but overall, I would say that we achieved our goal of creating this concept and being able to pursue permanent changes. So that wraps up my presentation.
Thanks, Yasna. Yeah, that project in whole is just really exciting.
Thank you. Thanks. It's been like, I mean, yeah, it's been one of definitely the highlight of my 10-year career for sure.
A labor of love.
Yes.
Adam, did you want to add anything? I think you helped out at at least one of the events, if not.
I was there and ate some s'mores. I got bullied for not wearing a jacket when it was like 30 something. I thought it was warm enough to not wear a jacket. Evidently not as many people are as hardcore Minnesotan as I am. I just know that Yasna's work is really appreciated by Little Earth. Adding in the green space and reducing traffic is a huge thing for Little Earth, especially with how many people have asthma at Little Earth. Every time we have a LIRA board meeting, which is the meeting of sort of representatives of the residents, somebody always brings up like this one person who has asthma had this issue and so on and so forth. So I know the green space and reducing traffic is really appreciated. And I know like sort of like more vertical aspects of the features are going to be really appreciated because there are a lot of safety concerns in terms of gang and gun violence. So I think Yasna's just done a great job with this, and just like huge round of applause to her.
Thank you, Adam. Thank you for those kind words.
Well, I don't have any questions. Yeah, there you go. The little hands. So I just want to thank you, Yasna and Trey, for joining and presenting on this. I know how to reach out to you. So if anyone on Southside Green Zone or any of our community members has questions, I'll pass those along. And, Adam, maybe at a future meeting, we can talk about some of the other exciting work that you're helping out with at Little Earth.
I want to hear that.
Yeah, sounds good. We still have a couple of meetings to actually cement some stuff, but like, yeah, eventually that would be great.
Yeah, awesome. Well, get out and enjoy this beautiful weather, and we'll see you all soon.
Thanks, Kelly. Thanks, Adam. Thanks for staying,
Kelly.
Trey.
Yep. See ya.
Here.
Thanks.